Okay, we're now going to move on to just showing you some applications or programs that are run from the main menu system to give you kind of a look and feel of how they work. So I'll start out with some basic things. First thing is I'll start out with the items that are contained under accessories, and I'm going to go ahead and move up to accessories. And the first one is we'll just show you that the program has a normal calculator program. Actually, it's a little bit more, if you will, advanced than the program that you see in Microsoft Windows by default. This is actually containing not only the main calculator but also a scientific calculator. I know that Windows has the scientific calculator, which actually has a few more features, but this also has that program too, but it's not contained here. It's actually underneath the extras where you have a program like that. And just to show you, this program works the same as any other calculator program goes. If I want to add 5 and I want to multiply it times 5, and then I want to hit the equal sign, that's 25. If I want to do something, for example, like take the square root of that, that would be 5. If I wanted to square the number, I could do that. Another thing I could do is sometimes when I'm working with the calculator program, I may go out, open this up and be working in Microsoft or working in a Word program and want to calculate some numbers. So I could actually go up here and copy that number and then go ahead and paste the results of that in the Word document that I may be working with. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this program, and I'm going to move back down here again, and I'm going to open up the next program, if you will, which is something called move up here, and I'm going to move down to one called Dictionary. And contained within the system is a dictionary program. And if I want to look up a word and find the definition, such as something like car, I just type C-A-R, and I can say, go ahead and look it up for me. And it will look the word up for me and give me a definition. There might be times that you're writing something and you need to have a definition, or you need to actually, for example, quote something that you're in here, like Webster's Dictionary said. You can go ahead and highlight that and then go ahead up here to something like copy, and then go ahead and paste it right in your Word document. So that becomes very, very helpful. Another thing that I find that really helps me out a lot is that I may have a word that I'm trying to spell, and I really don't know how to spell it. So I'm going to kind of take a stab at it and look it up. So I could type, for example, I could look up, if I was spelling, say, the word boat, I could, instead of spelling it as B-O-A-T, I could go B-O-A-A-T, and then I could say, well, you know, that I really don't know how to spell that word, so I can tell it to go ahead and look it up. It's going to check the spelling, and it's going to give me some suggested, if you will, results. And so then once I find whichever word and I say, oh yeah, that's right, it's really boat that I'm looking for, I can click on that, and then I can look up the word. And when I look up the word, I can go ahead and close this, and now I have a definition. And again, if I want to, I can go ahead and highlight this. And if the definition, if I want to quote, for example, Webster's Dictionary says what the definition of this word is, I can do that. And I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. I think you probably get the idea that we have a program that is a dictionary program. Move back up again. I'm going to go to accessories, and another thing that I wanted to show you probably at this point, and again I would recommend that you would just try these different programs. I could spend hours going through what each one of these are, but just to kind of give you an idea, but just I would recommend that you explore on your own. I'm going to go down to something called the text editor, and one of the things that if you will, that Linux has is something called gedit. That's the name of the program right up here. And in Windows we have a program called Notepad, and they do essentially the same thing. What they're utilized for is writing programs that are pure ASCII text. Very similar in nature to what you were utilizing Vi for. So this can be a very good alternative to Vi. We utilize this program in CIS 61, for example, to open up system files that we want to modify and save, for example, configuration files, and because they don't put any, if you will, any strange characters in them, we can utilize this. And it's sometimes for us it's a lot easier to utilize. So I can type anything I want in here. My name is Pat Hogarty, RTY, and then if I want to, I can go ahead and save the file. And when I save it, what's going to happen is, and I'm just going to click Save As for a minute so you can see how this basically works. You'll notice that by default it's going to save it to my home directory, which, remember, I'm logged on as root, so it's going to save it in my home directory. I can go up here and I can just say name the document Pat, P-A-T, and I can just say OK. And when I do that, you'll see that it's saved, and it also said right up here where it's stored in, which is root/Pat, and it's being done by gedit. So again, this is a good program to do system files or write any kind of program files that you want to work with, because it's just a pure ASCII text editor, but still provides that functionality of opening documents, being able to cut, copy, and paste, find text within a document. It's a real nice program for doing this kind of work. I'm going to go ahead and close this program, and we'll go back down to the desktop again. The next thing is I want to do is to just show you something here that's underneath games. We have a lot of games. I just don't happen to be a game player. I can pick one of them that are down here just to try to see what they basically, if you do, well, we have something up here called Freecell. I've heard of that game before. And when we open that up again, these are programs that a lot of people will be very familiar with. It's being able to work with cards, and people play solitaire. They play all different kinds of games on a regular basis, so you're able to take and move stuff around. Again, you're probably more familiar with this than I am, but I just wanted you to get the feel that these kinds of programs are contained within the application. You can pick out whichever ones work best for you. I'm going to go ahead and exit the game, yes. And I'm going to go back down to the Red Hat again, and I want to show you, okay, so we had games. Under graphics, we have a number of graphics tools. One program that's in here is something called the GIMP. The GIMP happens to be a program that's utilized for, if you will, for the manipulation of graphics. And as I mentioned before, it has to do with something that is very close in nature to something like Microsoft, not Microsoft, but Adobe Photoshop. So this is what the purpose of the GIMP is. It's just loading a lot of different kinds of graphics and plugins right now. And the important point to keep in mind is that a lot of these different programs are coming free. They're coming right within the actual application itself that you can utilize. And this will give you an idea here. We just have a closed tip that we can work with. And again, for those of you that have ever worked with these kinds of graphics programs, this is what we're actually working with here, where we can maneuver these around and create all kinds of graphics and paint programs, fix, if you will, different kinds of photos, things like that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and again, this is something that I would recommend that you could play with and see how that works. I'm going to go back up here again, and the next thing that I'm going to talk about, we'll talk about the email in a minute. We'll also talk about the Office in a minute. Preferences, we'll get to that in a minute. I think at this point what I really wanted to do was just to show you some of the items that are here under the main menu system so that you can get familiar with them. And in a few minutes we'll be moving on to some of the other items which have to do with setting up, for example, the keyboard, the accessibility, the control center. We'll be working with that, and we'll move on to that in the next few minutes.